Startup Stock Exchange presents SSX EDU Interviews. How did you get into startup investing?
Well, I've done startups myself and liked the space. And after I had some exits, I was looking to diversify from my holdings in just a few companies to basically having a whole broad range of companies. And I like the exchange space in particular. Can't do it all myself, so there was no other way to get involved other than to back others.
What industry developments excite you the most right now?
The areas that I really like are person-to-person marketplaces, things like the Uber space, or a company called Proven, which is matching up people looking for jobs with people finding them. I also very much like the digital currency space, so the Bitcoin market and now Ripple, these math-based currencies are very exciting to me. Also making investments in the messaging space, the folks that are in the space like WhatsApp, and others competitors of iMessage.
Is there a common theme across your investments?
Well, the common theme is that the seekers and providers are always found with market mechanisms as opposed to allocation. So we used to call it in the bike messenger business free call. People weren't assigned work, they just basically were given a marketplace and they chose from it. And in all those situations, we think that that's a more efficient solution. Similarly, on the digital currency, we're creating through Ripple open marketplaces where people are making bids and offers for exchanging currencies. So when people move money from one currency to another, instead of being assigned an exchange rate by the agent they use, it always goes to market and they get the best possible rate. So we like those market mechanisms. Well, I have an academic point of view, but most of the best investments I've made and people I've partnered with are all people that dropped out of academia. From Tom, this chap Tom, who taught me about the bike messenger industry, to Jack Dorsey, who dropped out of school and went on to start first Twitter and now Square. They're let's just say they're curious, but that doesn't necessarily mean that they're academic.
What are the most important factors you look for in a potential company?
Well, I'm always looking for the passion of the founder, someone who basically lives, breathes the topic of interest. And in particular, we're looking to invest not so much in ideas, but really in what we would call insights. And really the insight, the difference between an insight and an idea is, I mean, there's lots and lots of good ideas, but an insight is usually something that isn't technical. It's something that's an observation. Like an example would be for Twitter, it was that instead of having a push system for sending out messages, you should just let people follow whoever they want. And that little insight was to create a system that there's no spam, because if people push messages that nobody wants to listen to, no one will follow them. And it created a whole ecosystem of basically self-moderating content. That was an insight that wasn't really a technical insight. It was just an insight about human nature. So all the best ventures we've gotten behind usually have a founder that has one of those very, very simple insights. That's what we're on the search for.
What specific qualities do you look for in a company's founder and team?
Well, again, it is that passion that they live, breathe, and eat whatever it is. They have an itch that they just have to itch it. It's not about really making money. It may not even be about how big the market is. It's just that they're very, very curious. And the sense that you want to get is that you don't know whether the problem they're trying to solve is solvable, but you get the sense that if anyone's going to solve it, it's that person.
What is the most important lesson you've learned as a startup investor?
Well, the first thing that I would say is to treat investing as like going to school, that you're going to basically get an education. And sometimes that education may be financially beneficial, sometimes it may be financially punishing, but you're always going to come out with like a story and learning something. And so, don't make all of your investment in something that if it goes wrong, that's kind of like the end of your chance to be an angel investor. You want to have enough diversification so that you can kind of take your lumps and also get your sugar. You never know. I mean, my particular thing is I have a ratio of saying I'm looking for maybe 1 in 10 to be a winner, 2 to be okay, but I accept a failure rate of sort of 7 out of 10. And that may be too risky a profile, but I think if you go in with an expectation of more successes, you're being more like a banker than an angel investor. So angels really need to be risk takers and accept that when they invest that money, they're kind of kissing it goodbye. Some of it will come back, but a lot of it won't.
What is the most important advice you would offer an investor at any level?
The only other thing I can say is it does help to develop an area of expertise. So instead of just scattering all your bets around, if you pick an area where you can become, to some extent, a subject matter expert, then you're playing a role where, for the folks that you're investing in, you really can add something as well. So if you are a subject matter expert, about over half the investments I'm making, I'm also taking an advisory role where I'm actually able to help out that entrepreneur make connections quicker, avoid some of the mistakes I've made, and just better think about their industry. So you can't do that if you're not, to some extent, a subject matter expert in the areas that you're investing in.
What has been your proudest moment as an investor?
Probably that at a time when Twitter was going around looking to raise money, no Silicon Valley firm invested in Twitter because they didn't think it was technologically defensible. And so the first money into Twitter came from Fred Wilson, who's East Coast based and was saw it as a media play. And Twitter was actually having a hard time raising money from angels. And I stepped in and put up an extra allocation in that initial $5 million raise. There was $1 million available for angels, and I took a larger piece than I would have otherwise taken. So whether it was dumb luck or a good sniffer, I made the right call on Twitter, and I think we're going to get a public offering out of that shortly. And so that's definitely been the biggest payoff of all the investments I've made. Well, and again, it was the founder, Jack, had passion, and you could see that in his eyes, and so it did come back to that. I mean, there was nobody that knew more about text messaging. We worked on building that system for the bike messengers, and so if anybody was going to nail it, it was going to be Jack. Well, just the one thing I'd like to say is that the great thing about the SSX community is that it's not based here in Silicon Valley. I mean, our feeling is that good ideas and good insights come from anywhere in the world, and while there's obviously a lot of activity here in Silicon Valley, my greatest pleasure and excitement has been finding great ideas, great insights, and great founders all over the world. I really commend what Startup Stock Exchange is doing in terms of basically bringing those opportunities to a much wider group of constituents. So thank you for that.
Thank you so much for taking the time to share your thoughts and experiences in investing with the SSX community. This has been a presentation of the Startup Stock Exchange SSX EDU Interviews.